Okay, so greetings. Welcome, everybody. You guys have not seen me in an extremely long time. This is a special episode of Catch a Fire / Ways under the Trident. And this evening I've brought four exciting young people to you. We've been hearing a lot of talk lately in Barbados, in as far as youth development is concerned, community involvement, gun crime. We've heard it all over the last few weeks. And I think it makes more sense if we bring the young people to actually give their views, hear their opinion. Let's hear from them, what they're thinking about right now in terms of Barbados, how they're feeling, and also what they're doing to solve the problem. We're talking solutions this evening. So to my left, we have Jessica Reid, we have Rohan Forde, we have Ryan Forde, and we have Clarke. And we're going to start with Jessica this evening. I want you to introduce yourself to our audience, and we're just going to go down the line.
Okay, I am Jessica Reid. I'm a virtual assistant and a mother, and I am a no-nonsense person, which is probably why they have me here tonight.
Yeah, definitely no nonsense.
Yeah.
Talk to us, Rohan.
All right, so my name is Rohan Forde. Most people know me as Mr. Oasis. I do sports development, and I've been organizing sports, primarily football, for over a decade. And it's been a journey in evolving how people view sports in Barbados and really seeing where we could carry sports going forward.
Okay, Ryan?
I'm Ryan Forde, into business development. I am also the national head coach for the Barbados water polo team, and I also do community development, and I have a history in football and swimming as well too, as well as events.
Okay. Olu?
I'm Olu Jimmy Clarke, more popularly known as Olu. I'm an accountant, a husband, a father, and a very passionate Barbadian citizen. Definitely looking to see some change.
Okay. All right. So sit back, buckle up, guys. We're going to have an interesting conversation. So Rohan told you we're at the Oasis. This is in Candy Hill, opposite Koiman, opposite the Rubis gas station in Candy Hill. It's really amazing. This is the first time that I've been here. And so far we have about, I would say since I've been here, about 60. I've seen 60 young men here playing football. I'm going to give Rohan the chance to tell us about his vision here. We're actually here at your home. You're hosting us, so I want to thank you for welcoming us right here this afternoon. Tell us all about Oasis. What is this project all about?
Well, it's a project that's kind of difficult to define because I don't really consider it my own. I consider it that a lot of people over the years have talked about this thing, have talked about building a football field. Even Ryan, number of people talked about building a football field in a community for people to play sports. As you know, cricket is the primary sport in Barbados, and so anywhere you go in the island to play football, it's always a cricket pitch. So you're basically treated sort of like a second-class citizen when it came to football. And we, over the years, I think this has been going on for over a decade, we've played north of the island, out by UE, Les Frills and Rockdundo, by the Gymnasium, Briar Hall, Combermere, Dover Pasture, Erdiston. Some people don't even know what Erdiston is, but Erdiston Pasture and beyond. And every location we went to, it just reached a point where they basically asked us to leave. There's a negative view around football, but what people don't understand, I think the statistics from the last World Cup was that the viewership was about 4 billion. So when you talk about world sports, you know, it is football and then everything else. And there seemed to be a vibe where people thought that football had a negative energy around it, and that couldn't be changed. And myself and a few others believe that we could invite people to play football with us and change how they respond. So no violence, no aggressive play, no slight tackling, no negative energy. In fact, come and play with us and enjoy and have a good time. And move from there. So that kind of coordinated approach kind of formed into what you see here today, which is the Oasis. And the final straw was when we were essentially kicked out from using the public pastures because we were not allowed to purchase light tokens. This went on for over a year, and at that point it was kind of the final straw, and we decided, when I say we, it was myself and a few others, we said, look, let's build our own place. We started with a small loan and built lights, and then it grew from there. And it really is just about focusing on bringing people together. I mean, when I was growing up, I was an Indian person in Barbados, and I never really saw many other people that looked like me. But where that didn't really matter was when you were playing sports. If you were riding bikes, swimming, playing football, playing cricket, playing road tennis, whatever, that was inconsequential. So as I grew, I realized that you don't see people coming out and playing sports the way they used to when we were younger. And that was a vital cog that was missing. I think like there were things that kind of controlled or influenced the community, which would be like religion in some aspects, politics in some aspects, and then sports. And you know, the sports element always is overlooked. So I kind of passionately poured my all into it. I left my day job. I left other things. I've lost relationships over this venture. You know, I've had to be really persevere in bringing it to fruition, and it still isn't where I want it to be, but is a lot further. And I really am grateful to everybody that has a part to play in it. You know, I always tell people that, yes, okay, maybe I was the one to build it, but everyone day by day supports me more and more each day, and I'm really grateful for that. And I think that ultimately, when we look at Barbados and when we try to grow ourselves as a nation, we really don't value sports broadly as much as we should, because it's a great unifier of people. I always say that football is a universal language. No matter where you are in the world, what language you speak, if you play, people seem to understand you and you form connections and move from there. So that's really the main purpose of this, what you see here today. And we hope to keep year by year growing it and improving on that community aspect of it.
Okay, you mentioned something just in terms of you lost relationships in your pursuit of what we're seeing here. I want you to expand on that for me in terms of, we know in Barbados, academic pursuit is often glorified. That's what's encouraged.
Right.
What was the challenge for you in terms of balancing the two, or actually leaving one aside and pursuing the other? What was that experience like?
My mother always told me a story that when I was 4 years old, I went to nursery school or whatever it was, and I came home and I was like, yeah, this not for me. And like from 4 to 25 or whatever it was, I kind of held that position. I went through, did my 11 plus, CXCs, first degree, master's degree. And the whole time I always felt like this is not for me. And what I found was that although I was gaining knowledge and certain analytical thinking in one aspect, I was losing confidence. And I was always a confident person, but what I find overly educated people tend to experience is a paralysis of analysis, where they overthink a situation and they don't actually try anything, they don't actually do anything, they only speak about possibilities. And so, you know, I would label myself at that time as depressed, given my circumstance, and I had to make the decision to leave university. I had to leave home, because in my household, and my parents will attest to this, is like, you're either working or you're going to school. I didn't have a job, and I decided to leave school. So it was fractious at the time, right? You know, I left home, and then, you know, there's a perception too, like everyone is like, oh, but you're this smart person, you should be doing X, Y, Z, you should be involved in this, blah, 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 blah. And it just didn't feel right. I used to actually physically go to school sometimes and feel sick just because it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And the only thing that was grounding me throughout this whole experience from the time I was younger till now was football. And so I leaned into that and I focused more on that, and that really got me through. I wasn't making money from it at the time, but it was something of a therapeutic endeavor. And so, you know, during that process, a lot of people will question your thinking, because no matter how you try to explain yourself or how you try to explain your vision, everyone will say, but we don't get a job at, I don't want to call no organizations, but this place or that place, you know, these people. And when you look at the financial offering for the hours and the effort and the stress, it wasn't attractive to me. So I gauge basically one of my last working experiences, and I say, if I can make that much or around there, doing something I enjoy, then it's worth it for me. And so that was my benchmark, and I decided to turn hardcore into the football. And people kick up a fuss when we first started with $2 a month, and we used to do little events here and there and, you know, raise money. But that was important for me because I wanted to prove that there is value in sport. There is money to be made in sport, not just in what you see here, but nutritionists, physiotherapists, psychologists, and the like. So I kind of turned towards sport as an escape, also to build along with it, and that's kind of where we are now.
Okay, we're going to stay on sports a bit. Ryan, you mentioned that you're the head coach in terms of water polo. I want you to talk to me about the youth that you work with. I want to talk about your program directly and your experience. How has that worked out? What do you see from working with youth in your program?
I mean, it's interesting because we say youth, we are still young. But then we have people that we're dealing with that are 20, sometimes 25 years younger than ourselves now. So it brings a different energy and a different viewpoint of how you do things. We may have been we may have been the more grown social media newcomers, but the ones that are coming up after, they learn things so much quicker. They're bringing out other platforms that we're not accustomed to. And dealing with them is like you're dealing with a young boy versus dealing with a young girl is completely different. Dealing with ones that are under 14 years old versus ones that are 15 to 18 to 19 to 20 is completely different. But then you need to not deal with just the child that is coming chasing a ball. You now need to deal with the parent that believes their child is going to be the next Usain Bolt tomorrow. You need to deal with the person that believes that Brazil won their first World Cup in the first year the World Cup ever happened. So you need to deal with parents that want so many things in a team environment, or it could be individual, but they don't have the patience to wait because maybe that parent never played sports. That parent may have played sports, but probably were pressured as young, so they want to pressure their child as well. And then we also know within your actual community, whether you live in the Heights, whether you don't live in the Heights, wherever it is, there's still physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse. There are all these things that you need to deal with as a coach. And you would find it like all of us grew up listening. I know it's a big topic now, the whole music stuff. All of us grew up with the Bounty and the Mad Cobra, the DMX, the Nas, the Jay-Z, etc. But I pick up a child at 4:45 in the morning. Child is 16. One of the leaders of the team. If he starts to talk to me or she starts talking to me about things they're dealing with in their friend circle or their team circle or their girlfriend or their boyfriend, or it could be their family, I now need to find a way how to understand and get on it. So I have players who go through all those things that I would have listed before, but they speak to me in a place of trust, something that they may not have in their family. It's not that they dislike their family or there's a disconnect, but they're now trusting the person that deals with them at 5:30 in the morning till 7, deals with them at 6:30 to 8:30, the only person traveling with them on trips, the person that is fighting with the political side of the association, and then the broader political side of maybe pushing proposals to Sports Council or to the Olympic Association or directly to the bigger body, which is the government and private sector. So you need to find a balance of how to deal with it. And the reality is we're not Jamaica, we're not Spain. So the pride in sport, or Brazil, the pride in sport is different. As Rohan said, if you look out there at any given night, people are enjoying it. Cricket is our national sport, but our true heart is football. Anybody, man, girl, young child, whatever. But how do you nurture that spirit into making it financially possible for somebody to survive? How do you make it physically and healthy for somebody to survive, to understand that all of those corn curls and chips that you eating on a day that you think taste good, but they're just addictive? Pringles don't taste good, they're addictive. The first and second one taste good, but if you eat a whole Pringles, that don't taste good. It's addictive. You understand? And trying to get that child to understand a bulldog, not this to the gas stations, because I love it too, but a bulldog and a Bigfoot and a Coke is not going to help you go forward. But it will help you for the next 10 minutes, and then after that, in 20, 40 years, it's going to be detrimental to your health. So you need to deal with so much with so little in your back pocket. which is financial support from the home, support from the school, support from any other element that might be there. And people need to understand that part of it. When I was in Canada, the good thing for them is that they had tons of infrastructure. But if for example, I grew up playing with Paradise and I put that plug in there, let people know Paradise run things. Enough of them out there. When you play with Paradise, you could have played against, we used to play Man U, Liverpool, all these youngsters. Nobody ever beat us, and we drew with 2 and beat 4. When we got 16 to 18, there was a differentiation in terms of how that football played. We started to realize that we started to lose. But in Canada, they got all the infrastructure. The same thing with the US. We go out every year to Miami. These fellas driving in Mercedes and Ferraris and different things. Their daddy and their mommy are always there. Some of us may have had that, but there are a lot of these individuals playing football do not have that support. But just to see your father or your mother there means so much. Even if they stay for 20 minutes, it means so much. And you could see it in every young child. But the people they played were not more talented than them. And every year we went up, if we were to use a neutral referee or we were able to play as many tournaments as them, these score lines would never be like this. Not when you playing from 4 years old and here in Barbados, you go only playing for a couple months and then try to compete. And then when you go to somewhere like Spain, where when I was there for 2.5 years, if you're under 12 years old, you're playing 6 sports. One day, maybe a day and a half, something like that. 12 to 16, you're playing 2 sports. 16 to 18, you gotta lean more to one. At 18, you sign a contract. So if Warrens was in the professional league, but 6 Roads was in the next division below, but I am on the Olympic team and I'm a world champion, I live close to 6 Roads, I playing for 6 Roads. And the benefit of that is that the younger ones coming up, as well as the competition level of the second category is now up here because you have the high caliber talent there. But down here, I remember growing up playing football, and if you play 3rd division, the reason you play in 3rd division is because A, you either bet on the game, or B, you want to play Bradford football, or you was just garbage. You understand? There's no diss to none of the footballers, but everybody know that. BFA has transformed over time, and things have started to change. And you will find that in some of the sports too. With water polo, we got 4 or 5 coaches. First coach, Natalia. It could have been me go off. I sent Natalia off to Mexico to learn because I got my experience, but she may not have. But then Natalia grew girls water polo, and we were one of 3 in the whole Caribbean playing. So if you give people the opportunity to expand on their experiences, whether financially or practically, you're going to impact so many more lives. Last night I played a game with the kids, and there was a girl coach officiating the game, and she is the captain of what Natalia originally had there. So you need to give people the exposure and the experiences.
Olu, we're going to come to you now. We're talking about sports as a tool for development of the youth. What else can you add to that in terms of programs, community programs? What do we need to do to engage the youth more in Barbados?
Well, first and foremost, I could say that I too am an avid football player. I've played football with Rohan over the years. I remember Boyer Hall, for example, even before here was paved, and it was just, some easy rainfall and you just run about through the mud. But I believe that sports definitely brings people together. Even on a weekend, for me, with some of my friends, we play football on Saturdays and Sundays, and that's usually on a basketball court within the community. And I find that football, as well as other sports, it really brings people in the neighborhood together. Sometimes you may have a playground in the neighborhood, you may have a basketball court in the neighborhood, or just an open space of land. And almost every Saturday, almost every Sunday, you can find a group of young people coming together. If they cannot agree on anything else, it is one thing that they can agree on is that we're playing football. Sometimes you might not have a goal bar or what's not. You put 2 slippers there or take out somebody's garbage can. But it definitely plays an important role, especially to living in the Caribbean, where we have a number of households that, the father is maybe absent or the mother is working long hours, picking up extra shifts just to try to make ends meet. And most of the time, these children do not have the support at home, and they're found, I guess, butting about on the streets and what's not. But sometimes something as simple as football keeps them out of trouble, you know. So I think it's definitely important for even something like this that Rohan is doing, to be able to bring the young people together, some people that you would have never met to begin with. You know, you become good friends with them. It's a good way of connecting with people, building your social capital, as I like to call it. You know, so I definitely think is a very important thing and something that needs to be developed, because I have had the opportunity to live in Trinidad. I've had the opportunity to also live in the Middle East. And Rohan would tell you, when I was living in Bahrain, I used to send him pictures and videos of football places, because every single way that you go in Bahrain, almost every neighborhood, there's something like this. And it really brings people together, you know, people from all walks of life, people who are professional, people who come up from lesser circumstances, as you would call it, but it brings people together. And as Rohan said before, you know, it removes that barrier of judgment. It removes that barrier of maybe something like racism or classism or what's not. It's just a bunch of people playing football. So it definitely brings people together.
Sports as a business now. I want to get Jessica on this. Rohan mentioned earlier the spin-off effect. When we talk about sports, it's not just the players so involved, but you got nutritionists, you got psychologists, a lot of the other opportunities are involved when we're talking about sports and culture and these things. I want to get your take on that, Jessica. You can divert from sports if you want to and go into culture also as a business.
All right, so I worked in sports before I started my virtual assistant business. I actually had 6 years as a sports administrator with West Indies Cricket Board. So I don't know anything about football like these three, but I know the cricket pretty good, right? And one thing I related to that Ryan was saying is when you look at all of these other countries, the structures that they have in place, right, that facilitates the children going through the processes, going through the stages, and developing and growing, as opposed to here where you get to the 15 and the 16, well then you're out to the youth program and that's it. That's the end of the world. The reason why cricket is the #1 sport in Barbados is because that structure exists. We have the under 17s. When you come out to school, you have the under 19s, you have Barbados regional team that feeds into the West Indies team. There's a structure, right? Having structure in sports is a really big deal. Like, you really need it. And the Barbados Lottery is supposed to be supporting sports youth and culture, right? And I always wonder where that lottery money is going, because I don't see the sport being supported, right? The same way, because that is not supporting cricket as far as I know, because that's coming from the board. So where's the sports development? Because every single sport, we had the best volleyball team. I grew up on volleyball. I've been around volleyball before I could talk, right? And we had the best volleyball team in the region for years. But then we had volleyballers that were the kings and the queens consistently, but they could only practice after work. So they had to practice at 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock at night, and then get and go work the next morning. And then, you understand? So and then sometimes they might not be able to get work off to go on a tour. And so how do we expect to have, consistently good people if we're not making it possible for them to make a living off of the sport? Which is why sports falls to the wayside so often, because people have to choose money, right? So sports is a business. Like you said, we can make any sport could be a business. There's always going to be a need for a nutritionist, a physiotherapist, an administrator. You don't even have to be. I never played on a sports in my life, but I worked with that sports organization for 6 years, right? And I enjoyed every minute of it, right? You can have a role in sports. Sports opens up opportunities for so many people, and we don't look at it as a viable business because it's just a hobby, I guess. As far as the powers that be are concerned, it's just a hobby, and it shouldn't be the case, because if you focus on it, you'll see how many people, and it will lend towards the community part of all the violence, and the young people ain't got nothing to do. Give them something to do then. Give them something that they're going to put their time into and their commitment into, and it's not that they have to choose not to do this because they got to figure out how they can feed their family. Let them know that if I stay in this here, I could feed my family off of this, and then maybe he's not going to choose to go on the block because now my coach my coach will knock off my head, boy, and I gotta stick to this. You know, like give them the option. You're not giving them the options, and they're saying, oh, let me just choose any violence, okay, as opposed to,
I'm going to open the floor on this because she's making an interesting point. If you're going to say that the youth are going to be given problems, they're not active enough. We're saying sports is a tool that can actually bring these children out of difficult situations. We're talking sports as a business. What is the challenge? Why are we not seeing sports develop as a business in Barbados? What's taking so long?
I wrote my first proposal at 15 years old as a captain of a 21-year-old team. You understand? So fighting up with the smaller political side, which is the board of whatever sport you're on, to then the board of the association, to then the National Sports Council, to then BOA, to then the government. I started to look at it now 16 years later. The government puts the infrastructure, regardless of which government is, government of Barbados puts the infrastructure. Similar to what I always say about maintenance in the Caribbean, and in this case, Barbados. As you can see with all our old buildings falling down, old hospitals, last slave house, Errol Barrow house, different things like this, it's the same thing. There's no maintenance. So what we're doing in 1992, we're trying to do in 2021 for somebody to be champion in 2022. And it don't work like that. Oba win in 1996 is when he got the medal, and we supposed to have Oba because some kid win a Milo race over the road. And then everybody else who lose to him has to be Obadeli or Ryan Bradford as well. So we have this vision that, because they win there, they're going to be the best. Darian King, our #1 tennis player, is a superb football player. Don't tell you I say so, okay, I had to buy you drinks, right? But, granted, he is better as an individual player than a team. There's some swimmers who are better coming and play water polo or going to synchronized swimming. And the same thing, there's a long distance runner who may be better as a footballer, as a midfielder. You got Jomo Harris, who could probably go and run cross country because he don't start running. And he now in Domrat on his way back from playing with the Barbados team. But in terms of him playing as a footballer, the structure is there. So the issue with going into communities and letting people know that there's the opportunity for you, even though you're a great runner, you might be better on a team sport here, is not there. When you look at the infrastructure, governments put in the infrastructure, they don't necessarily maintain it nor upgrade it accordingly. The private sector does not get involved. Like you see a private sector in the USA with, say, Turbo when you're talking about aquatics, or you're talking about Puma in Jamaica. Puma not from Jamaica, but you let a man blaze a track Puma ready for that shoe and that t-shirt. Down here, man, we could give you a couple of shirts, a couple of Gatorades, whatever it is, and that's it. But that can't really help you in your training. As what she was mentioning just now. Cricket has that structure. It's already there. From A down to Z and back to A1 down to Z1. You understand? The other sports don't have it. And as much as you agitate for it, you still have people who either A, never played a sport, B, are so stuck in one tunnel vision, they're not open to trying new things because, y'all ain't gonna win tomorrow, so we ain't gonna invest. They ain't care about 10 years down the road, nothing like that. So you have teams, national teams traveling without somebody that could give you a massage. I remember going Dom Rep and some of the swimmers had some issue. So you had to trust the Cuban doctors for the Cuban national team that were telling, get them an injection. And nothing against Cuba because they're some of the best medical doctors. But the reality is, why should I trust someone I meet today because I walk in a room? It ain't nothing to do with nationality. But you should be able to have your own support. And that's the thing, we don't have support on maintenance and innovation when it comes to the infrastructure, as well as towards the training. But in terms of the training, some associations, like for example, BFA, have done an excellent job in terms of getting numerous coaches certified, numerous referees certified, and that's something that we've tried to do also in the water polo. And in the aquatic world, every year FINA, and I'm guessing people like FIPRO and all these other windsurfing and things like that, they also have trainings for officials and for coaches. And I would say apply every single year. You don't have to wait on government, it's your association. Apply, keep getting the trainings and keep pushing it. I had a kid who was with me. as I was telling you before the show, I have one kid who I had ever been scared of losing them to the lifestyle of what they were around or to crime. And I remember he challenged me on why is it that we always have to pay to go and play for our country. And I said, well, you know, until you qualify for Pan Am, CSC, we got to do it for Carifta, CCCAN, these different junior meets. Prove a point until they invest, which is wrong, but let's do it and then change it from within. He eventually quit, and he told me, you know, the three things that I really believe in now is the three G's. I said, what's the three G's? Guns, girls, and ganja. And the reality is, he still went down another line of his skills, which were culinary skills. And he is one person that if I see him on a cruise party and I see him, I go and give him a hug. I see his mother at her place of business. And I'm just so excited that we've not lost him to whatever environment that he may, what he told me prior, because that's what he was thinking. But he's saying that he made a life for himself. And then when work say come there for 6 o'clock, where he learned it from? Because he had to be at the pool at 5:30 and jump in when it's freezing cold. They ain't got no girlfriend there for you. They ain't got no fat. They ain't got no, as he's quoted, gun girls, ganja, da 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 da. You had to come run, come swim. If I didn't like how you do it, you had to do it a different way. But the discipline and the fact that somebody cared to correct you, show you a path, show you the next step, and they don't have that. We have it in school, we have it in cricket. And that's pretty much it. Every industry, you go agriculture, you go to, I mean, tourism has it because you start as this and you go up. But even in our own sectors and stuff, you don't have that. And that's the same that needs to go in a sport. Don't mean to take all your time for you fellas.
Nah, that's fine. We got time. We got time. I want to get Olu's view on this. We're going to pause on sports, but it's an overall issue where we're talking about government not stepping up to the plate and facilitating the best way it could. What are your views on government and its lack of, I suppose, the ability to really bring these things to fruition?
Well, firstly, I would say that it's because of two issues. The first issue being the mentality and the mindset, being stuck in past ways. And I would say the second thing is being passive, being more reactive than proactive. I think that is fundamentally a very big issue in government. As you see, over the last, how many years? We had independence back in 1966. Barbados has always been a two-party country. And for me, the way how I perceive governments is just the same people who pass on the baton. So you hold it for 10 years and you pass it there, and then the next government takes over for the next 10, 15, how many ever years. But definitely, fundamentally, for me, it's more so a reactive mindset rather than a proactive mindset. And even just to tie it back in and touch back on the sports for a second, you look at the fact that cricket is the national sports in Barbados. Where did we as Barbadians learn cricket? It's from England, who was previously, you know, who had Barbados captive, basically, before we got our independence. And over the years, we have focused on building cricket. We've invested a lot of money. That is why you can find in Barbados that cricketers can make a living off of just playing cricket. Now, when you look at other sports like football and maybe tennis and what's not, I find that we have a more reactive mentality because, in my opinion, I think Rohan has done a lot more for football in Barbados in recent times than the government has. And he has, even you would have seen that even after he had built this, they reached out to him to have competitions here. And for me, it's about being proactive again, because for over all the years that we have seen, football has been a part of Barbados. You have the Barbados Football Association, you have third division, second division, first division, and even the Premier League. But even Premier League footballers, look at that structure. They're not able to play football professionally. They have to go work. When they finish work, they have to then go to training. There's not that facility. And then also too, you have to look at it from the perspective in terms of private investment. Because if you look at football as a global sport, especially in England, Spain, Italy, and what's not, the sponsors, the private sector is what really carries it. But here in Barbados, we do not have that type of investment. So for me, overall, in terms of the government and their inability to move forward, is because they see something and then they react to it, as opposed to bringing younger people on board and trying to pave a way. Because reality is, for me, I was born in 1993. I had the era of the Walkman, the CD player, but I also grew into the era of the smartphone, where you could have music on your phone and what's not. So we have a better understanding of how to bridge the two gaps, the older generation and the newer generation. So if governments were to look at persons like in my age group, in Rohan's age group, we have a better understanding to be able to bring everybody together. And I think until that happens, that is the only time that we will start to see change and be able to actually move forward in this country.
All right. I want Jessica on this note. You mentioned the music earlier, Ryan, slightly. You touched on it slightly, but we're going to dive into that issue. I see it similar to what we're experiencing, where soca is number one in terms of the support and the structure, the same way we compare that to cricket. I know we have dancehall and these subgenres in Barbados that don't get the support, don't get the respect, and they would get kind of, fight down, as we've seen recently. I want to get your views on not just the recent controversy surrounding the music, but I want to talk culture now, also as another tool for liberation, for ghetto youth, for people in working class communities to have an opportunity to express themselves through art, not just singing, but maybe dancing, touring instruments. There are different ways within the entertainment sector that you can get involved and that you can make a living, not just being an artist per se. So we go down the line. We're going to get your views first, Jessica.
Okay. So to me, it pretty much comes on to the same thing. All of it is mindset. The powers that be, their mindset hinders everything else. So in the same way that they only see cricket as the, that's the number one sport, we can put the money in there, that's going to flow. Soca's the number one because crop over, tourists, the tourists is number one. Tourists is the most important thing in the world. So tourists are going to come, crop over. So soca for sure, yes. Everybody else could fall by the wayside, as if the rest of the genres do not exist. I'm sure that there's no dancehall artist, no R&B artist, no nothing that gets the support the way that a soca artist will. And we have really great, talented people that bring out proper music all the time, and they don't get no push. People don't know that they exist. They gotta push extra hard. They gotta set CDs and stand up outside Carlton and sell CDs to people, for somebody to hear them song. Why? And the most mediocre soca artists gonna get pushed. Why? Because that's what the tourists want, and that's the number one. It's the mindset, because we don't think that culture is something, and we do this from school. They as Rohan was saying, they put us in the mindset of education. Everybody you gotta get a job. So accountant, doctor, those are the jobs that matter. Go to UE, get a degree. I was telling my daughter's father today, I went to UE. I did my 3 years at UE. I have my degree. I cannot remember anything that I learned at UE. UE was a great experience. I had fun. I met a lot of people. I will always treasure the UE experience. But degree-wise, what you do? I know what degree I have, but I can't remember what I do. That was waste time, right? There are people that never even went to UE that got great businesses now, good money. That hustle spirit, working through it, experience, We focus on the wrong things. We think that education and that job and them, the good jobs are all that matter, and we don't put support behind anything else. So we have people who are cultural practitioners, artists. Look at Shane Eastman. Shane is an excellent artist, getting recognition from all over the place, right? We're not putting our support behind artists, behind dancers, behind singers, behind actual, painters, sculptors, all of those. And these are people that can make a living from this. They are making a living from it barely by pushing themselves. So imagine what would happen if they had support, and they could be world-renowned people. But soca though. And don't get me wrong, I love soca. I love off crop over, that's my jam. Don't get me wrong. But other people exist. And a lot of artists have to, we study, Put and Satis, great artists, they had to get into the soca, right? And now all of a sudden they're ambassadors. Rick start when he dance all thing, but you know Rick is a chameleon, so he can sing whatever. But soca, so in order for artists to become big and you know have that brand support and that push, they always have to segue into the soca because that's the only thing that's going to make them worth the attention, and that's crap. You know, like you can make a legitimate living. Nandi is touring all about the place now. Spinny, literally, they're just going around doing our culture, right? And they're making a living from it. And I'm sure that back in the day, if they had said, "Oh, why you want to dance?" You better go in them butts. You know what I mean? Like this is what we do to our children. We killing the spirit, we killing the culture, and then you're like, "Oh well, the children, them don't do nothing." So people like poor Rohan that go in school every day and feeling sick to the stomach. And then we can come out and tell them that they're waste, right? They're a waste because they didn't want to go to school. But maybe that's not just for them. Everybody is not a book person. Everybody's not a school person. We gotta nurture what people thrive off of. And if you're a cultural person, push the child in the culture. And if there's a sports person, push them in the sports and let people excel at what they love. And when somebody's doing something that they love, they can do it well. You know, like, but you know, what you know now? I know nothing. Right.
What are your views on this, Rohan?
I am really is heartwarming to hear other people express your views, because sometimes, especially in Barbados, you may have these thoughts. You never hear anybody talk about it, so you think that you're crazy because you feel like, well, I'm the only person that's thinking this way, right? I remember someone had asked me a while ago what I thought Bajan culture was, and my first response, I said it immediately, was crippling self-doubt. And it was, you know, people laugh and then we think about it some more and it's like, but it's true, like every person I encounter that is Barbadian, smart, aspirational, eager, enthusiastic, is swiftly followed by, but this, but oh, but this, but that, this, that, the other. They always veer towards the negative. Now contrast that with people from, you would encounter people internationally who, not to knock anybody, but half as talented, half as credentialed, half as having a good quality product to put out there, and they're just doing it. And you know, so seeing that and observing that really pushed me towards to say, like, look, let me try it, and if I fail, so be it, but let me at least try it, because you know, people never will excel. Every person I've encountered that is excellent at what they do spent a long time not being excellent at it, right? And so what we have to do is create that environment for people to try. I'm not really a outcomes man. I can't tell you do X, Y, Z and you can get this. What I could say is, if you don't do these things, it's very unlikely that you will move, right? And so I think that for Barbados, what I would like to see going forward is people encouraging persons to try things in a wide variety of stuff, right? Like don't really box into soccer, cricket, whatever. Whatever you have an interest in, go far with it and excel. And then you would start to see the mindset shifting from a small pie, which is how we currently view Barbados and why we have some of the structures in place that we do. It's only X, and that's all we got to work with, into a larger pie, which is the world, right? You can't fight it. Globalization is here to stay, right? We have to lean into it and become thought leaders, become, you know, every Barbadian I know outside of Barbados is top of their league. Doctors, accountants, psychologists, whatever they do overseas, they're the best. But when it comes to Barbados now, and when you try to speak to them and say, well, why don't you do this in Barbados? The opportunity, the bureaucracy, all these other challenges, right? And we have to take stock of that there are a lot of talented Barbadians out there pushing the envelope on a variety of fields. And we have to harness that and say that we don't need to be any different than Dubai. We don't need to be any different than London. All these places tap into people, tap into the value of people, and then have that value feed into the ecosystems. They're not perfect, but we don't have to strive for perfection either. We do have to move from the position we're in now, which I think is sedentary. We just stagnant, and we have been so for my thing since the 90s, right? We just really, really, really stuck. And we need to start to believe in ourselves, to really have confidence in ourselves and start to grow again. And that's going to take, like for me, I see a lot of challenges that people experience in their educational. Maybe it's a good time to abandon the current existing education systems. If we're having challenges with it, let's stop and do something else. Because I didn't find them particularly productive. So let's take stock and move in a different direction. We're having challenges with culture and music. Let's stop and start to really paint a picture for the next 100 years. I remember going through UE and I remember talking to my lecturers a lot. I was a terrible student. I remember talking to my lecturers a lot and telling to them, this whole course you just taught me, you could have taught me in like 3 weeks because I found it to be historical. Now, you should have spent the first quarter of the course teaching me what you taught me. The next quarter explaining to me how the world is today, and then the final half on what the future will be, like what the possibilities will be. Make it relative, and I find that we are just stuck in what I remember. I went to IT. I was learning about like Microsoft Office and stuff when I should have been learning about cryptography and other aspects, right? And we focus so much on creating these systems to teach instead of really encouraging people to go out there and tap into knowledge, right? And we feel like we could give a person a mark, 90%, 80%, whatever, and that defines them. Instead of saying like, yeah, you got 40%, but your answer for this was quite interesting. Let's lean into that. Let's go further. The most interesting people I've met in life are people that have been essentially, looked down upon from society or maybe questioned by society and disregarded that and continued to do what they felt or what they had an affinity for and went further. And that's where I feel we need to nurture. And I hope that through, sessions like this, talks with youth, a lot of informal conversations we could start to develop that.
Okay. All right. So let's put government aside and assume that after all these years, government will not get its act together at no time at all. And we have to do it on our own. So I want to talk business development. So we have entrepreneurs, tons of entrepreneurs in Barbados and across the Caribbean attempting to do their thing. And one of the reasons why I brought Jessica on the program as well, because in terms of being a virtual assistant, she offers services to these growing enterprises in terms of, you can't order staff, you can have staff on board. So you can reach out to Jessica and you can get a lot of the administrative duties done and structure your business accordingly. So I'm going to get to Jessica shortly, but I want Ryan to talk to me about business development. We're not talking about government at all now. What we're talking about is individuals, communities, pooling resources, coming together. How do we do that? Because we admit that the education system is not structured, not tailored in a way to facilitate that kind of mental stimulation, that kind of growth. So how do we do it on our own? You leave school, you want to start a business, talk to an entrepreneur in simple steps.
I'm glad we took out the government side, because then I would have called a bunch of agencies that are headaches. But the reality, how I see it, there was a community last year that I was dealing with. I went to talk to a youngster and tell me, I got this tree falling down, etc., and we want a thing. And while we were sitting down there, we got rid of the tree issue and stuff. I said, if you all pool together and buy some lawnmowers and some power washers, your community has probably 200 houses. If you even go to 25 houses this weekend that approve you to do business for them, you could charge whatever. His short answer was, that could only put on me and my man here, but it can't put on the other 6 or 8 people. So we need to educate them that you might start at 1 or 2 people. Shafat didn't start with 15 locations. Yeah, granted, it might have started with a 1 location, which is a structure. But at the same time, you still got a burger stand that might grow into something more, or how fast Pizza Man dog grew. For whatever reason, it's back smaller, but it grew. You know what I mean? Jono's Pizza and the same kind of thing. So you need to be able to show people the vision that they may not have. Their vision is stuck at, I can do this and it could be a success and I need money, I need this and da-da-da. But their vision does not include the steps. So you need to show them the steps. So the same fella that I was speaking with and stuff, even if I were to invest into that, it can help. There was another youngster who his thing was he was into baking and into things like that, but he didn't know how to market himself. So the same way Jessica is offering the assistance in terms of the administrative side, I'm sure she also offers on the marketing side and stuff like that. There are people who don't understand how far a logo may go, right? And I was talking to Olu earlier. When I was in Canada at 16 to 21 or whatever, the social media crave went out. So we went past the MySpace, we went into the high fives, the Facebook and whatnot. And Facebook originally was North American high school and college students only allowed to use it. And then it opened up to the rest of the world, and then it opened up to the rest of the different demographics as well. But when we were at school in Canada there, we were taught that spell your name correctly, make it easy to pronounce, make it catchy to the business, make it easy to find, stuff like this. When you talk to somebody here, and I know it might not be politically correct to say the term, but while I was working at my last location, we would have received a DM from somebody named FatCat246. Now, you don't tell me your name is Crystal or Jones. My response to you is going to be, good afternoon, Fat Cat. You understand? So how the hell am I supposed to communicate to you in a nice way? Then there are people that might have, say, Guns N' Roses, or, you know, Shotterbuck, blah, blah, blah. Like, that might be a nickname for when we linemen and stuff like that. But when I want to go and promote you as a business, if you want to use the name, make it catchy, change the logo and stuff like that. But they don't. So you need to be able to educate to these people that stop thinking your boys and your girls are going to support you. Because if Rohan got football here every night, I might pay the membership fee because I could afford it. But if I am to come here every night, I'm not going to want to pay $10. If Jessica decides she opening a pizza parlor, for my health, I ain't going to buy pizza every single day. So you need to be able to go to the other people, because Rohan might buy from Jessica today, Jessica might come and play football today, Ulu might buy pizza tomorrow. So you need to be able to branch off to them. But what happens is within the communities is people either see the end result, which is a successful business and this person rolling a certain way, blah, blah, blah. Or the very initial stages, man, I ain't got no money to start this and stuff, but they need educated on the steps. And there are a lot of us here, we do our own individual work in our communities. If there are more people who say, you know what, twice a month, just twice a month, I can give 2 hours or an hour, or twice every other month, just to educate. You guys are doing this TV show. If you all were to pick your community for one, and then a community where you are not known, and you say, okay, well, I can go and talk to them about, you know, producing a music video, or filming, or hosting, etc. And you start to educate, you will find a bunch of youngsters that could be that next George Lamin, that next Mighty Gabby, that next RPB, different things like that. And that is the thing that we forget. We need to handhold sometimes until they're able to say, like a child, break away from your hands and run, and you're not scared they're going to cross the road without looking left and right. You need to be able to hold their hands. When they break away from your hands, know that they're going to stop when they need to stop and slow down. Look left and right, say I made a mistake here, this is the next path to go, and then cool, and then they go again. But until they get to that stage, you go handhold them, kind of nurture them along the way.
Jessica, your experience with growing enterprises, I want you to talk to me in detail about that. The kind of assistance that you offer small businesses and how it has helped them. What have you seen? What do they need?
Okay, so essentially what I do as a virtual assistant is, like you said, I help with anything administrative. But the way that my brain works, I don't deal with chaos. I pull sense out of chaos. And a lot of the time as an entrepreneur, like Ryan said, people just don't know. Like sometimes they don't know the right way to do things. They don't know like why this isn't working. And I'm the one that's like, okay, let's try this. And that's not to say that I know everything. A lot of things that I learned along the way, like I said, the whole UE degree was a waste of time. Everything that I've learned in my business, I sat down, I went on YouTube, I see a course here and I do it. You know, like I had to figure that out. A lot of it, I've been doing this for 3.5 years now. A lot of it was trial and error. A lot of it was me trying this here and saying, okay, that definitely don't work. Let's try it. Because as Rohan said, a lot of business people, they spend a whole lot of time failing first before they get to that point. So as an administrative person, I'm the person that can come and say, okay, this may be the best fit for you. Let's try this. So a lot of times people come and tell me what they want, and I'm like, no, that's not what you want. Do you think that's what you want, but that's not actually what you want. And I guide them in the right direction. So coming out of COVID though, and that's why you asking me to do this was so fitting. I actually added on a new branch to the business where outside of just doing these services for people, I wanted to start the coaching. Because as Ryan said, sometimes people just don't know. And a lot of entrepreneurs may not be able to pay me to do it for them, but they still need to know how to do it. So some people just don't know certain things. And I can't watch people, we in a state right now, real people get fired. A lot of people have no idea what to do with themselves. I started my business out of necessity. My daughter was diagnosed with autism. I could not work and take care of her the way I needed to, and there was no way for me to compromise. And it was like, well, F this job. And then it was like, so how are we gonna eat? And then I had to make it work. As I tell you, I had to go and research. I had to figure out what I could do, what skills do I have that I can make work, and that's how my business started. A lot of people are in that position right now where they're like, how are I gonna eat? And I don't want to know that people are struggling to eat and they out there with this information and they're keeping it to myself when I could show you how to do it, right? So that's where I am right now, where I'm like, I can just show you how to do this. Like, this is what you need to do. Start the business and we can figure it out. Like, yeah, everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur, but for right now, that's all you got. Then nobody hiring, and the ones that hiring want to pay you the bare minimum and stress it out. Start it and we can figure it out along the way. And entrepreneurship right now is where everybody is turning towards, because like we said, there's no jobs for waste right now. Like, nobody's giving you anything, and if they're giving you something, it's of no quality. They want you to work 25 hours in 2 days and pay you $7 an hour. Nobody ain't doing that. And we especially have parents who look how all the COVID children was home. Like, how are we expected to work and make money? And what we can do with the children? We can just let them lock in the house so that they could call each other work for me. Like, what are we supposed to do? And I know a lot of parents who had to choose between working and taking care of the children, and then like, so now how we can feed the children? And I can't very rightly sit down and watch it happen. So we need to educate people. We need to show people this is what you could do. We focus on, the education system is teach people bare unnecessary crap. And we don't teach people how to manage finances. We don't teach people how to just something as simple as research. Like, I had to sit down and figure out what I was going to do for myself. A lot of people know how to use the internet for social media, but a lot of people don't actually know how to use it for their own benefit, to sit down and figure out what they can do with their life, to learn. I literally have learned everything that I know from Googling, from Pinterest, from YouTube. I'm very much self-taught, right? And a lot of people don't know how to use the internet to their benefit, to improve themselves and to develop their skills. And so they spend a lot of time on social media and they watch the music videos on YouTube or whatever, but they're not really making the most out of the situation. So I think we really do need to focus on educating people and not just the basic. I don't want to say stupid because it serves a purpose for some people, I guess, but like, not just drilling the same repetitive foolishness over and over that right now in this day and age is pretty much useless. Like, teaching people how to write a letter, that's great, but we could find the template on Microsoft and just change it. You don't need to teach me how to do that anymore, yeah.
So in all fairness, and I'll put this to you guys, I'll start with Olu. We sometimes often hear that there's a rift between generations in Barbados, the younger people and the older folks, in terms of the way that they would have done things before. So we have our parents would have found stability, security in finding a job, getting that pension, being able to pay a mortgage, and you know for sure that there's a salary coming at the end of the month. That's security. And we would have been taught from a very young age to make sure you secure your salary so you can live comfortable, etc., and make these decisions. So we're coming into a new era now, and you're saying to me that entrepreneurship is something where you're required to pretty much dive off the cliff, build the parachute on the way down. That's how we hear about it sometimes. How do we craft a different mindset in Barbados, Olu, going forward? Because again, entrepreneurship, it sounds savvy, it sounds good, it's a buzzword right now, but it requires a lot of dedication. It requires a lot of hard work and sacrifice. So I think we need to balance the conversation of how do we go about, as I said, crafting the mindset of Barbadians towards, breaking away from focusing strictly on academia and these jobs that we would have been focused on previously into focusing on new areas with confidence.
Well, for starters, I would say that knowledge is power. Start with education, but also too, I would say that the generation is actually breaking away from that mindset on their own. For a very long time, we've been talking about the 1%, the 1% being the most affluent, being the richer folk. And I believe that the information that they have been kept within the 1%. You've seen cases where more affluent individuals in society would pass on the information to their kids. You've seen cases where children who would have come from rich families would not have attended universities, but are CEOs of companies or managers in companies because their parents, because of the background that they have had educated them in such a way. But I believe now that we're in an age of technology, information is way more easily accessible, and you're finding more and more young people, even young people who are younger than me, earning 6 and 7 figures, because they have broken away from that mentality. I think for a long time, persons have started to get uncomfortable with their circumstances, uncomfortable with the whole basically status quo. Working at 9 to 5, what our parents and their parents would have instilled in us. The traditional way of thinking in terms of, you need to go to school to become a doctor, you need to go to school to become a lawyer, an accountant, whatever it may be. But then you find that the younger persons in this generation are growing up to be more artistic and even more expressive, because you're finding instances where nowadays you can't tell young people what to do. They already have it ingrained in their mind that this is what I'm set out to do and this is what I am going to do. And I think what is important is to encourage them, because if you don't try, you don't know. And I think that you have to allow persons to fail, because that is the only way that most people learn. Sometimes, like when we were growing up, we've all heard, don't put your hand in the fire, you will get burned. But trust and believe, each and every one of us put our hand in the fire. And it's only then when we put our hand in the fire, we was like, this thing hot, yeah. So let me put my hand in that. So we have to allow the younger generations not only to express themselves, but allow them to fail, allow them to learn from the lessons and to move forward into the spectrum of entrepreneurship. Majority of these successful businessmen in Barbados and even the world, they would have started from nothing. You look at the Mark Zuckerberg, he created Facebook just in his dorm room. He left school and just focused on that. I'm sure that many people within his circle, when he started, would have left him and said, well, you got to be crazy. You should be in college studying IT or whatever the case is. You look at the Jeff Bezos, starting Amazon just from a garage, not tuning out everything that persons around them was telling them. You look at the Steve Jobs, starting with Apple. Like these are different instances where persons, tuned out. They didn't necessarily have the encouragement. But what I find is that if you encourage persons to, at least try, it can go a very, very long way. So I think that's definitely one thing that we should be looking at. Encourage the youth, encourage them to be artistic, to express themselves. And unless we encourage them, we cannot get like another Rihanna, or we cannot get another Chantel Lane, or different individuals who have done well within their spectrum. So it definitely comes down to education, knowledge, as well as encouragement.
Okay. All of us here went to school in Barbados. I want to get views now on public education, private education. You're in the midst right now of the 11 plus examination. Some people think that this is something that maintains classism in Barbados, where parents get excited. My son going to a good school. Some parents are embarrassed because they don't want to tell the people in the salon that the son passed for a quote-unquote lower school. These are realities that we experience in Barbados. I want to get your views, again, each of you, on the difference between public and private education. How necessary is it for us to as parents or as individuals, kind of take some more responsibility for the public education system, extracurricular activities, the whole 9 yards. How do we kind of bridge the gap between the two?
I mean,
Go ahead, Rohan.
I mean, well, myself and my two sisters, we went through the entire public education system in Barbados. Eardiston, St. Michael's School, and then BCC and UE. And my parents always told us, like, you know, we live in a community, and, you know, there are all different types of people in the community, and even if you say you can experience better aspects, you know, maybe better teaching or better access to certain methodologies in the private school system, you still have to apply that now to the community that you're a part of. And so that was their philosophy, as well as it was expensive. So, I mean, not discredit that. You got 3 kids and you want the best for them, but we have free education here, which is a luxury. So we wanted to utilize that. And, you know, my thinking is that whether you go to private school or whether you go to public school, that does not limit you. The development of a person has to be more holistic than that. There needs to be spiritual development, there needs to be family development, there needs to be friendships forged, there needs to be interaction, there needs to be challenge, you know, there needs to be all these other things. Like school, like what I found about school that was so disheartening was that it seems like a big daycare, right? Where you just kind of try to put the kids into a scenario that you don't have to think about them, instead of actually understanding what it is that your kid has an affinity for. If a person is particularly attuned to, say, playing a guitar or playing a recorder or doing something, what is it that they're going to spend a certain amount of years learning geography and learning science and other aspects? And, you know, it seems to me like what we should be doing at a younger age, rather than focusing on the private or public, is really doing aptitude tests with children. And really each year trying to understand, you know, where they're developing and what they have motivations to do, and kind of encouraging, as Ulu said, encouraging them to go further into that. And what you will find is that as they are motivated and kind of self-driven towards any particular topic, the construct is less consequential in that circumstance.
All right, we're going to wrap up soon. I want to get some views quickly from you, Ryan, on tourism. Are we still too stuck on the service industry when it comes to tourism? You know, there are different brands of tourism. There's eco-tourism. There are tourists who travel for different reasons. How do you think Barbados is being branded in 2021?
I think what COVID has done, apart from creating A, entrepreneurs, B, a lot of social media hype, angry people, and that's the reality. If you go through comment section of any of these newspaper or a person's profile, you see a lot of people with a lot of anger. And some are because they've been in an industry that has supplied a lot, but now a lot has been taken automatically. So go back now to the tourism side of it. I've always been a person that have agitated for diversifying the tourism. And it's not just diversifying the sub-segments of the tourism industry, but diversifying the offering of incentives, because people that work within the industry, we know how much it has impacted our lives of other people. So if I bring in a group from overseas, 40, 100 people, whatever, a taxi man, first of all, government taxes on the flight that coming in. The company, say it was Virgin Atlantic, gonna get money too, which they gonna be paying the least for being here. The taxi man, the attendant at whatever hotel they are, or receptionist or whatever. Other people getting payments for whatever services, the food and beverage, the restaurants. I'm sure Rohan's had some international people come here and play football and to pay. So there's a big spill off. The thing that I think a lot of people need to be arguing about with the tourism sector is, one, you need to diversify. As you said, there's a lot of historical tourism here. There's a lot of culinary tourism, sports tourism, there's agricultural side of tourism. The prison burned down when I was away in 2004 or whatever like that. We didn't do nothing with that but let the bush grow. You understand? So there's so many other things that you could do, and you need to link those industries. The other issue that you need to find is that the incentive for a foreigner to invest into the island cannot be the same. Because when you make 100 million US, it's not the same as making 100 million Barbados dollars. Automatically, you're making less than you overseas. So if here locally we had more incentives that all four of us here can put in together and get the same or better than a foreigner investing, then great. Because whatever I create, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a condominium, whether it's a restaurant, whatever, I'm still bringing in the foreign direct investment into the country. The same as the foreigner. The difference is that myself and my 4 local children and wife and cousins, etc., are now being impacted. If Rohan, say for instance, was an Italian and he invested, and nothing against Rohan and his Italian family investing, they're then going back, paying taxes overseas, taking majority of the money out. So nothing wrong with them coming in and putting in the money, but on the local standpoint, that the frustration is that we're the same. So if I wanted to invest to build condominiums, I'm going to get the same concessions as a Sandals or whatever it is, but why can I not get better as a local person? I lived in Panama for almost a year. I can't go to the Biodiversity Museum and pay the same as a Panamanian. I can't be given the same incentive as the owner of the hotels, 2 hotels that I opened there, than me as a Barbadian coming there and want to open hotels. It doesn't work. We take pride in industry literally overseas, and we need to do the same thing here. But the biggest key is for the local public to understand the tourist is not the problem, because there's going to be that bulk of tourists who do nonsense. The same way we got locals that run around and shoot and kill and rob and rape and stuff like that. They're individuals, they're civilians, they're citizens. They do nonsense. So don't take it out on the tourists. Demand respect, show pride and show culture. But at the same time, our industry has done so much for so many other sub-industries. If you ask farmers where the bulk of their produce go, even if it went to a supermarket, they got supermarkets. I worked at one of the biggest hotels here, and we order from those same supermarkets and they get from the farmers. When we get breadfruit, you feel we shipping it in? Error. It coming from St. John, St. Joseph and stuff like that. So we need to take pride and understanding, and don't kill an industry just because of what COVID has exposed, which is the weaknesses. There's a lady named Chelsea Brathwaite, and she put out a very good article where it spoke, and then it was in Barbados or Business Authority or one of those. She spoke really and truly about the leakages in the industry, which was really technology as well as agriculture side. And if you improve those, you would see a lot better. But the next challenge too is how much you pay people. Because you could pay people at the bank to just taking money and doing the same thing repeatedly, and they're gonna make the same amount as the person that is doing hopscotch, splitting, etc., to do the world for somebody to come to this country. And not downplaying one over the other. But if you go work 2 years in the bank, you've worked 15 years in a hotel or a restaurant. There needs to be a balance. There definitely needs to be a balance.
All right, we're going to close with Olu. You did something recently that I really appreciate. We're always talking about social activism and getting Bajans to be less passive, speak out a bit more, act more, say what they want from the government and so on, create more political awareness. I want you to tell us about the 388 movement. I want you to talk about that. And I want you to talk about, not just explain what that movement is about, but I want you to talk to Barbadians about the receptivity, the importance of numbers coming together and doing these things so that they actually make more of an impact.
Well, for starters, I would say that if you stand for nothing, you will fall for anything. I think for years we have been saying that the Barbadian people are way too passive. I personally have that same sentiment. And I find that we are a society that mumbles under our breath and we forget real fast. You know, we complain about something 2 and 3 weeks, and then, or sometimes not even that long, and then we forget. But this particular movement, the 388 movement, although many people may have not agreed with the method, it was more so to bring awareness. Similarly to how you would wear a pink ribbon during the month of October to raise awareness for breast cancer, I see it as that. It was more so to raise awareness for people to get thinking, like, why are we paying so much in fuel, you know? And also it was an initiative rather to put pressure on the gas stations to represent our interests by representing their own interests. Because we find that in society, when people speak out, when we speak out against the government, when we speak out against other persons in power, we are often marginalized. We are often not heard. However, we saw a case where the gas stations cried out a couple weeks ago and said, well, look, we're going to have to send home people because we aren't able to open our mini marts on Sundays. And boom, an instant response. So the way that I thought of it was, look, if we could put enough pressure on the gas stations to say, well, look, we can't really sustain this type of slow activity. We need to do something about it. It then forces them to go to the government and say, look, this is our predicament. What can you do for us? And then the government then responds in such a way that it benefits us all. I've had some mixed reviews in terms and mixed feedback, but for me, it's like if you don't do anything, you don't know what works. And I find that we are a society that loves to criticize. Because let me tell you, I get raked over the coals for this idea today. And there was a complete contrast in terms of Instagram and Twitter. Twitter was like night and Instagram was like day. Like Instagram, everybody was like, yeah, let me do this, da 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 da. But Twitter, let me tell you, them people carry me in. But I find that I'm not a person who, I don't object to criticism. I don't believe that I'm a proud person. You know, I'm always welcoming the criticism. My thing is that don't just critique, because that's the easy thing to do. And I find that we default to the easy thing to do. Persons don't like to take action for fear of being singled out, for fear of being classed in a certain category or what's not. But to critique is very easy. And I was saying, you know, I was encouraging persons, yes, critique, but also bring suggestions to the table, because I am open to suggestion. And the movement has actually sparked it's gained some traction, because I did an interview today with CBC. I also did an interview with Loop News. And to my surprise, as I was opening my gate to go into my house this evening, I got a phone call from the Prime Minister. So for me, we need to do more. And if we can get such a reaction from persons by something as small as that, imagine what more we can do if we actually come together and unite as a people to actually stand for something. So I will end by saying, if we stand for nothing, then we will fall for anything.
We got room for last words for everybody. Right, so from Ryan, we're going to come down. I want you guys to speak. This is your opportunity to speak to not just Barbadians, but I really want you to zone in on young people who may be listening to the program. I want you to speak to them directly, whatever they're into. Whatever your words are for them, speak directly to young people for me right now.
Right. Well, I speak to them every morning and night, but I'm going to speak to them again on a broader scale. What I want you to do is take pride. If it's not national pride as much as I would love for it to be, take pride in yourself, take pride in your family, as well as your neighbor, your brother and your sister. Because whatever you do is going to impact not tomorrow, not next month, it's going to impact many years. And as Olu was just saying, you got to stand up for what you believe in. So don't just say, I can go on Instagram and I can go on Facebook, I can comment and I can check back to see how many likes I get, or if a man or a girl come at me and I going back at them. No, because when it's all done and that topic has died down, the only thing you getting is a Facebook memory. You've not really inflicted or agitated for real change. So you need to get involved. If you're upset about politics or private sector or whatever, stand up for it. Because if you don't want to get involved as a politician, but you want to be involved with an NGO, or you want to be involved in a community project from amongst your friends or whatever, go and do it. Don't think that you are too small, that you are a nobody or nobody and listening, or no change can come, because guess what? Change came many times, no matter how long it took, because somebody did it. It didn't happen faster because so few people actually did it. So the more of y'all that get on board and start to really push the throttle, push your message, do it respectfully, have the patience to understand it ain't gonna happen in 24 hours, but it can happen in 48. Do it, and do it as a team. This one time, it's not an individual movement. do it as a team and do it with pride, because Barbados needs you regardless of what section is.
I think for me, what I would like to let people know is that there doesn't need to be a ceiling, but there needs to be a floor. And what I mean by that is that the higher we go and the more money we make and all these platitudes we get from everyone across the world, etc. When you're excelling, just remember that there are people around you that also need assistance, and you need to bring them up with you. So don't only focus on being a billionaire or a millionaire or all these other things, because when you get all that money and you have it to yourself, what are you gonna do with it? Who you gonna want around you? You can sacrifice everything to just get a number in a bank account. Instead, your journey of life, you should focus on trying to help those around you grow with you, be in a better position. You yourself, you gain so much from helping others, right? It's hard to express in words. And, that's what I really mean by having that floor and raising that floor over time. Just to speak to the football, like when I first put forward my business proposal, I was comparing it and contrasting it to other ventures. People were like, well, why your price so low? Why don't raise your price? You would make X, do this, do that, bum, 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 pay this off quicker, bum, bum. And I was like, but I exclude a whole class of people. And those are my people. So I can't even entertain it. That's not an option. So, I really think that as young people grow and aspire to wealth and all these other aspects, know that there's more to life than money, right? And to really know that when you are hungry or when you are hurting or when you need assistance, a dollar sign is only one aspect. You really want to rely on people, so help those that you can and grow with them.
Have my business and wanting to help people with their business. I also have my daughter with her autism. Rohan has his sports. Ryan has sports and business development as well. We all have our thing, and that thing is what made you bring us here, right? That thing is what drives what we do, and because of that thing, we have a lot less time to really be focusing on a lot of silly things, because we have things to guide us to focus on. We have things to work towards, and I feel like everybody has something. Like there's something out there. Everybody doesn't have to care about politics. Everybody doesn't have to care about sports, but everybody has that one thing that's going to make a difference. And when you find out, once you figure out what that thing is, just go with it. Like, make it happen. Figure out what you can do and make it happen. And don't listen to all the other people that tell you that you need to go to school and you need to learn this, and do it. Like, make it happen yourself. Use the internet. Ask a friend. Stalk somebody Instagram page that's doing exactly what you want to do. Make it happen. Just do that.
Beautiful, guys. Is there anything else that anybody want to add? Now is your time. Anything else that you might have missed? Floor is open.
I just think I want to thank you really. I've listened to the Wise on the Trident and a few other efforts you've made, and I think that one of the important things for the Caribbean is for us to hear more Caribbean voices talking about these things. I think we exist in our own heads, and everyone sometimes, a lot of people have similar ideas, but they never hear anyone else expressing it. So they are oftentimes like afraid to kind of express yourself, people that will come and drink alcohol, and then one person might say, man, I'm not drinking. And then three other people will be like, I didn't want to drink either. But know that you're not drinking, I'm not drinking with you. Right, is that kind of these things are important for people to just stand up and actually just put it in their hand and say, I disagree, or I want to do something different. And you would find that more often than not, there are more people that also share your sentiment. So I am very appreciative of the work you're doing, and please continue.
Respect, brother. Thank you. Thanks a lot. What we're going to do, you guys are going to see the Instagram handles for everybody that you guys can follow them on Instagram. You can see the full interview on YouTube. We're going to give you some sound bites on Instagram. So we really appreciate everybody coming and giving us your time. Keep doing what you're doing at Oasis. All you guys keep doing what you're doing. And I hope that the young people in Barbados would have been listening to this conversation. Everybody would have been expecting us to come here and burn down Rome tonight and have a very aggressive conversation. But I think we did the reverse. And we really give you guys some gems, some really strong stuff to hold on to. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Thanks a lot for viewing.